Hello, I hope you're having a good week. Can you guess where I am? Normally my weekly video is filmed in the woods by the lake behind where I live, but today I'm somewhere else. A place which is familiar and a place which many of us are missing meeting in at the moment. I'm at Tory Street. I'm at the place which we often call church. On my right is the main room, the sanctuary as it's sometimes known. But I want to make a comment and I want to make a point to you. Both the word church and the word sanctuary is an inaccurate use of terminology. Church means God's house and sanctuary means holy space. I want to expand this idea with you for a few moments. In the Old Testament, God's presence dwelt in, it begins in a tabernacle, a compartment, a container, and God's presence was in that. It traveled with the people. And then later in the Old Testament, it talks about the temple of God. It was a sacred space, it was a holy space, and it was the place where God's presence dwelt. In the New Testament, in the Gospel of John, Jesus is introduced with this phrase. In John 1, verse 14, it says, "The Word, which is God in human form, became flesh and lived among us." God's presence isn't in a box or in a building, but is in a person, in the person of Jesus, and it is lived among people. As Jesus' ministry unfolded, he offered the presence of God through his life to those around him. In John 1 verse 12, Jesus said, "To all who believed and accepted him, he gave the right for them to become children of God." Later New Testament writers unpacked that idea of being children of God as being more than just forgiven and saved, but being heirs and co-heirs. And that people had not just received salvation, but had received the very presence of God inside of them. The New Testament writer, the Apostle Paul, wrote in 1 Corinthians, "You are the temple of the Holy Spirit." Which means this building or this room isn't the temple of the Holy Spirit, but I am, and you are. If you've accepted Jesus, you are the church. You are the temple of the Holy Spirit. You are the place where God's presence dwells. And for those that have said yes and accepted that, that changes us, but also it flows around us and changes those around us. In the last month, I've heard the phrase several times about how the church hasn't met. I found that quite interesting because I've also heard times where people have been experiencing God and expressing their faith to those around them by buying groceries for their neighbours. We've been using the benevolent fund to send gifts and to pay people's bills and to help people, and this is all an expression of church. Last month, there were two opportunities where I invited people to make a decision to follow Jesus, either for the first time or to come back because they're used to and they're not where they need to be. More people responded to that invitation last month than did the month before. All of this at a time when seemingly the church isn't meeting. The online presence has been remarkable in terms of people joining us who previously hadn't attended. I've been part of a film project called Glimpse, and I want to make a point to thank the many people, especially from this church, who supported that. The season 2 that has been running over the last 6 weeks has just finished. On average, the Glimpse films were viewed 20,000 times per week. I have been inundated with people sending me messages from all over the world in the last week, Zimbabwe, Australia, and somewhere else so many other places, I can't even remember, of people saying, "Thank you for bringing this message, this idea, this glimpse of hope." Somebody sent me a message saying we were talking about this film, this lunchtime on Sunday, and it's turning a relative back to God who used to believe but has strayed. I am encouraged that whilst the doors behind me are closed, the doors to the church, which is us, aren't closed. I am looking forward for these doors opening again. I am looking forward to meeting together. Like so many people, we miss each other. But I'm encouraged that the mission of God is bigger than a building, bigger than a venue, even bigger than ourselves. So may I encourage you, wherever you are, that you are the church, and the mission of God is bigger than any building. Have a great week. I'll see you soon.